All right, it looks like 9 a.m. and my time zone, so it's time to get started. Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for joining me for learning about the nuts and bolts of transcription with MAXQDA. Um, we have chat function available if you are interested in sharing from which part of the world you're joining us today. I've seen some of you are already sharing. So I hope you all are enjoying MAXDAYS 2023 virtual conference. Please put your questions in the Q&A chat box so that we can address all of them at least as part of this session. I am Dr. Sinem Toraman Turk, research methodologist by training and specializing in qualitative and mixed methods research. As part of our session today, I will briefly explain the nuances of transcription and then demonstrate how to use MAXQDA's transcription function for your qualitative research projects. So let's get started. Just to give an overview, in case we have some colleagues who are here with us today and new to qualitative research, during the qualitative data analysis process, the researcher collects data, prepares the data for analysis, explores the data, and memos ideas, and then codes the data. And then based on the coding process, the researcher develops a description and themes, and then finally reports the findings based on the themes developed and how they are described in the context of the study. So we all know that some of these steps occur simultaneously during this process, and we know that despite the common misunderstanding, we prepare our qualitative data for analysis. We even do some cleaning. So all of these happen in the second step where we transcribe our data and check the accuracy of our data and clean the data, by which we mean anonymizing. And there are, of course, many advantages of recording during qualitative data collection, regardless of the data type, data collection tool you may use. So accuracy is one of the most important ones, which is followed by the advantage of having direct quotation in research report. I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but I remember one of my colleagues was trying to really do coding or working on the recording directly. So it was a little bit too hard to really even pull the direct quotations in the research report when it was time to write up the findings. So it's also important to note that we don't have to rely on our memories when reporting. Therefore, recording is very important for us. And recording also gives us an opportunity to have a little more eye contact during the data collection, not extensively taking notes or, losing that connection with our participant. I don't know, many of us, I guess, have had experienced this, especially with the pandemic too. We use different virtual platforms to collect data. We change a lot of things in this game. So it's also important to note that recording makes it easier to analyze the data, as I've just mentioned. And having a recording also means that we can have a critical reflection of the process when we transcribe our data and check it for accuracy during the process. So we have multiple iterations of being exposed to data when taking these steps. And finally, recording is very advantageous because it allows us to better document and control our data. So transcription is defined as the process of turning audio or video data into text. So it takes extensive amount of time depending on how fast you can type and you use your keyboard and your experience with transcription. So in general, in my experience of training individuals in data analysis and transcriptions, I can tell you that an hour recording takes about 68 hours for those who are new to transcription. So it's important to really pay attention what you need to do and how long it takes not to overlook that process. It's also important not to overlook the fact that transcription requires attention to detail to develop a high quality database. So it's very important for us to have this really well-founded and having some kind of conventions to transcription during this process. So you may choose to get either using a professional help, and using some online tools or services, or you may want to do it on your own. So I've used both of these strategies, and I can tell you that both of these have advantages and disadvantages, because money, financial limitations you may have change a lot of things, especially about your decision making processes with getting professional help or so. So, of course, the benefit of doing your own transcription is on your own is to develop closeness to your data. But as a best practice, we all are supposed to, or at least I should say, should check our data for accuracy, and do this by listening to the recording and reviewing the transcription anyway. So it shouldn't be a problem for a researcher to develop closeness to their data just because they prefer to save some time and had someone else to do this work for themselves using some services. And also, it's important to note that transcription requires agreement on certain rules of transcription, especially when you work with a team of scholars and you have a kind of big project. There has to be a kind of convention and common understanding of how the transcription job will be done. So either you do it on your own or have someone else to do this for you. There are 6 major steps that we can say of transcription, as you see here. So we first determine a set of transcription rules, as we mentioned. Then we choose an established transcription system that is well suited for the planned analysis as well as for your project, and all team members agree on the conventions we develop. And then the third step is to transcribe the recording in MAXQDA. Then we proofread, we edit our work and our transcription, and then modify our transcription as necessary. And we need to de-identify, in other words, anonymize our transcription following the institutional review board or ethical guidelines as whatever you promise to your IRBs. And finally, we save and archive the transcription as a rich text format or a Word document. So this is what we do in general when we transcribe our data. So let's talk about how we do this within MAXQDA. So there are, of course, different rules or conventions about transcription using MAXQDA. But for this session, I refer to Cookhart's 2014 book, which is a wonderful book. And I always refer back to that book to guide us about this process. So verbatim transcription is very important for accuracy and consistency. And we should also decide whether any components of the dialect will be translated into text, such as gestures, etc. So language and punctuation are also important components to help really the coder or other team members to understand the context and tone of voice and any other details that might change the meaning in word choices or emphasis, as it's hard for us to get that within the text if it was not translated into transcription. We also identify transcription signs for long or short pauses if they are of interest to our project and data analysis. So, for example, if participants emphasize any terms or words, that also should be formatted differently to just grab our attention because it may change the meaning in the context. So what vocalizations will be avoided should be also determined before we really start transcription in MAXQDA. Objections and supporting vocalizations should be indicated in parentheses. So of course, these are not clear set rules, but there are different conventions for you to even take into account. So this is the reason why I wanted to mention some of these rules that might be helpful for you. And denoting participants or interviewer with a consistent approach, for example, using I for interview, P1 for participant 1 or 2, P2. So using this kind of convention is very important and helpful, not only for yourself, but also for our team, if we work within a team, to ease the process of coding and make sure everyone understands what each means. So putting each conversation as a separate paragraph is also super important to improve readability. I don't know how you feel about that process, but I can easily get very overwhelmed with a very long paragraph without any breaks, and it's hard for coding process as well. So in addition to the ones that we've just mentioned, there are also some other rules that we need to take into account, such as We should think about how to transcribe any disruptions, if that's very important for us, because it might change a lot of things with the attention of the participants as well. And nonverbal activities and unintelligible words or unclear words, we need to think about whether we want to put them in bracket, parentheses, or how we will come up with a way of tracking this information in the transcription. As we mentioned earlier, any identifiers also should be made anonymous during this process. So this transcription notation system is called the Jefferson notation system. This was presented in Cookhart's qualitative text analysis guidance book that I just referred to. I wanted to show you this. It's not the full notation system, but I wanted to show you how a system might look like, or you may want to develop on your own for your own project. So anyone is involved in the transcription process will use any of these symbols that you will use in the transcription process. And whoever reads your transcription will know what each symbol means. So thinking about this, such as kind of text box, brackets, or using underline or hyphen, or put an emphasis to capitalize the text itself, might be really helpful for you to think about. So besides these rules, of course, and our important guidelines to take into account, transcribing in MAXQDA has a lot of benefits, such as adding timestamps and organizing everything into one place, especially from data collection to analysis. And with its editing function, you can format your transcript or use abbreviation functions for the speakers with MAXQDA. The most important aspect of transcribing in MAXQDA, I think, is to have the opportunity to use memos to take notes during this transcription process. As a researcher, I've done a lot of projects, and I found this very helpful to memo, really, because sometimes it's beyond what you're transcribing, and the context matters a lot for qualitative projects. So MAXQDA is very user-friendly and helpful in that way. So I know some of you are very new to MAXQDA. It might be even a couple first sessions for you. So that's why, for those of you who are new to MAXQDA, this is how we get started from scratch. So I will quickly go over these steps and then show step by step how to transcribe within MAXQDA. So first, we start up our MAXQDA by clicking on the icon on our desktop, and then click on the new to create a new project and give a meaningful name to our project, and then save this project to an appropriate location, considering the ethical protocols and guidelines and whatever we promised. So you can see here on the right side of the screen, we have very helpful resources, including transcription of transcribing audio or video file within MAXQDA. So you can just click on those and just refresh yourself if you ever get stuck in the process. So the second step is that we come to import from the menu at the top of that orange bar, and then use whichever function is easier for you, especially to import your data into MAXQDA. MAXQDA, I think, is also another reason why you may want to choose MAXQDA, is because there's no one way of doing MAXQDA. So there are multiple ways, as you can see here. There's audio, video file, import function, or transcripts, focus group transcripts from any other tools. You can also see in the document system, there's a function that you can use to import your data. When we import our data in MAXQDA, it asks whether we have any transcript that is associated with our media file. So we select no, as we will create our own transcript, and we will do it on our own using MAXQDA. And then you should be able to transcribe your recording either by right-clicking on your data file and choosing the function of transcribe audio file to get started, or I will show you how to do it within a kind of bigger platform if we get to the last step where we can see all these functions. So when you do that, you will have a screen like this, which will allow you to start working on your transcription, and we can learn about these functions and get a little more hands-on experience with MAXQDA. So I'm going to end my presentation here and then help us actually, if I can navigate through this function. So let me share my screen again. Sorry, I have to do it one more time. All right. So let me do this. Why can I not see this one? Okay. Entire screen. There we go. All right. I hope you can see my screen now, and perfect. So here I have my MAXQDA icon. So I am gonna click on this, and then my MAXQDA will open. And my apologies, bear with me, please. I have multiple screens in front of me. So I'm gonna move my MAXQDA opening page here to help us all see it. So this is the opening page. So what we are gonna do is, as I demonstrated just a couple minutes ago, we are gonna start with by clicking new, and then it will give us a kind of where we wanna save our project. As I mentioned, I'm gonna give a meaningful name to our project, and I will say, this data that I will be using is coming from a usability testing. So I will say usability testing project. And then as a good practice, I always put the date just to help myself really, like when I really get started for this. So I'm going to use American way of keeping the date here. So it's March 22nd, and I save it to my desktop. So if you see here, there's a home tab. I just want to briefly go over this, how we will navigate through this process so that you are, for those who are new to this, know how to go over this process. Document system is the place where we are going to import our transcription. We will not do any coding, so you may just even close the tab from here, the window from here, or you can go at the top in the home tab and just close the code system here, because it will not be helpful, or you will not use it at all at this point. And retrieve segment is another area that is important when we use MAXQDA, which is used when we are in the process of really checking our coding or looking at our data holistically, or we want to retrieve segments, coded segments, to really see and want to develop themes and descriptions. That's why it's not even helpful for us to have at this point when we work on our transcription. So you can either click on close tab here from the on the right side of the window, and then give a little bit more room to yourself with just document browser and the document system. So coming to the import function. So as I mentioned, there are multiple ways of importing your data into MAXQDA. One way of doing this is to, if you use any transcription services or third parties, you can say, click on transcripts or focus group transcripts, and you can import any of your data from any of these third parties. I've used some of these, and I can tell you that, of course, they are good, but nothing is perfect in life, like these tools as well. So you may want to really check your data, even if you use any of these services, when you import that into MAXQDA. And besides these tools, you can see that we have audio and video functions here, from which you can import your audio and video files, whichever is more convenient and of preference for your data. And then in the document system, as you can see here, with the new updates and version of MAXQDA, it looks a little bit different than earlier one. Previous versions had kind of like right arrow. Now we have kind of like the download symbol, as it looks like that. The import document function, you can click on this and then import your file. So I'm going to go by audio. So I'm going to click on this, and it will just open up the file, the place wherever I saved my file, as I've done this before. So I will choose the audio file and click open to import my file into MAXQDA. So when you do this, as you can see, and as I just demonstrated during the presentation, MAXQDA asks me whether I have a transcript associated with my media file. I will say no, that as I will be doing the transcription for myself. And as soon as I do this, as you can see, it takes a little time to import, a couple seconds to import our media file into MAXQDA. So it just says it already exists in my external files because I have that. So whether you want to overwrite, I will say no, because I already have this in another place, and MAXQDA, as always, kindly reminds me what it is about and where I save that. So as you see here, immediately I had a kind of multimedia browser that just popped up here. And then in the document system, you can see my data file here. So as I mentioned, there are two ways of getting started on transcription. One, right click on this and then saying that you want to do transcribe audio file, choosing that function. So this is one way of doing this. You can do this as an easy way to get started. Another way is to do this is to, when you come and hover over within multimedia browser screen that you have, from the right side of that screen, you can see kind of from the third function on the right that when you hover over, you can see it also says transcribe. When you click on that, it also opens up this transcription function or window that is that allows you to really get started. So either you go from the document system, right click and say transcribe your audio file, or you go here in the multimedia file browser and then get started. So you can see that I have my multimedia function that is up above here, and then I have my transcription mode open here, which is the place where I'm going to get started and type. And then on the left side of that screen, there's a kind of separate pop-up screen, which is for transcription setting. So this is the place where you can really adjust your settings and what you want to do and how you want to navigate through this process. Let's get started and explain one by one. So first, so rewind interval is about the seconds that you want to get back to. So when I start playing my recording, as I'm going to transcribe, it might be too fast for you, and or sometimes you may want to just use, we are going to use F4 as a kind of stop and play. So as we pause and play with F4, you may want to go back at some point and want to change that however many seconds you may want to go back and rewind your transcript or recording to really hear and not to miss any words in between. So you can keep it to 5 seconds, 10, whatever works best for you with the pace of your writing process and transcribing process. So the other function is timestamp on enter. So as you can see here, it's already checked and we have a kind of timestamp function here. So as I will get started transcribing and writing up the data and turning data into transcription in a text format, it will, every time I go with that and create a kind of tab or separate paragraph, it will display the timestamp related to that segment and the part, whatever I transcribe. And then there's a function in MAXQDA, as you can see here, automatic speaker change. When you click on this, and as soon as you hit the enter, when you transcribe with the first one, it will show us and it will switch the participant or the speaker, and we will be able to see interviewer or the participant, and switching that will not be too much for you to, you will not have to write every single time who is the interviewer or who is the participant. So it makes it easier for you to do that. And to be able to do this, so if you want to have it, for example, interviewer or participant with kind of a convention that you will be using bolded and different, though you can bold this by using this function as well. And you can even change however you want to label your interviewer or participant in terms of, the related text segment to mention. So here, for example, I use I for interview, but interviewer. But for example, let's say I am gonna go by participant 1 because this is the first participant I interviewed. And I will use this, and it will just make it easier for me if I'm going to switch from this one to another participant. So I can just change this and make it a participant 2, and it will just automatically do this. So I will not have to do a lot of manual stuff or cleaning later in the process. And the other piece is I am happy to turn my camera off. Yes, I thank you so much for your comment. Yeah. And the other piece is it is important for us to consider for MAXQDA, especially for transcription functions, is to use auto text function. So sometimes what happens is that let's say we want to use shortcuts. So there is unintelligible words, and we don't want to write every time unintelligible. So what we want to do is we want to put X as a abbreviated version of a way for us to really make it fast and write X and then put double space. And then I don't know why it's getting grain out. My apologies, but everyone says that, but there must be something. Can you see it now? Okay, thank you. I don't know what was happening for some participants, but hopefully it's not a big deal. Okay. All right. Thanks so much for comments. Man, and my apologies for those of you who are having problem, but this is recorded, so you can watch this later in the process as well. So just to move forward where we left off, we can use abbreviations in the process. So let's say you are having a focus group discussion, and you will have a moderator and person 1, person 2, person 3. So it might be super hard with this automatic speaker change because you will have more than one participant. So it will not be just interviewer and participant 1. That's why you may want to come up with kind of 1, 2, 3, and you can use person 1 for person 1, 2 for person 2, or 3 for person 3. So that may make life easier. Or let's say you want to put, for example, D for laugh. So let's say people were laughing, and that was helpful or important for your project, and you want to keep track of that information. So as soon as you do that, when you put D and 2 space after this, it will just automatically create it. So I can just briefly show those before I really start how to transcribe, so that we have a better sense of how the abbreviation function works first. So let's say I want to put laugh at the first beginning. The participant talked about it and said that. So as I do this, and you put D and then put 2 space, as soon as you put 2 space, it immediately turns into laugh. So you do not have to write kind of, a couple like words instead, or you can just shorten however the way you want to abbreviate the text, or rather than writing up every time, you can come up with this shortcut solution. So I am going to go with that. So it might be easier to just do X double space unintelligible. So let's get to the core of transcription and how we do this. So there's a function control panel. So you may want to change the volume here, however you prefer. So I'm going to make it a little bit lower for you not to get distracted. And you can change the play speed if you want to go faster or slower. It will not be too hard for you to do anything. So I am going to get started by just clicking on play, and you can pause at any time using F4. So let's get started. So I am going to do this, interviewer. So I will type. And then if you see, for example, I've written so far, and if I hit F4, it will take it back to 5 seconds because I had my rewind interval adapted to that. So with my pace, I can write and pause and then keep going. So just to give you a sense of how it works, and I'm not going to, of course, type them all, but just to make that, just to make sure like you get the sense of this. So as soon as I hit enter, for example, let's say from this point forward, my participant talks. When I hit enter, it will automatically create participant 1, P1 for me, and it bolds it for me. So I can see that participant said, okay. And then if I hit enter again and go with the F4, my interviewer keeps talking and asking questions. So this is a just simple way of, easy way of really getting transcription done within MAXQDA. And you can just do this in a way to really make that work for you and your process. So how, let's say you're done, you have written up everything, you're done with your transcription. How you can really do editing, or if you have any typos or want to work on anything. One, when you're working on this, there's a kind of spell check function. You can keep it on and off, and you can work on this, and MAXQDA will just underline those that have problem with that. Two, as soon as you close this function of a transcription mode, it will automatically put back the transcription that you had, whatever you've typed into document browser. So you have it here with timestamps, and you should be able to come and hover over to the right side of the screen and turn that edit mode on. And as soon as you have that, you can, for example, type and do any cleaning as needed. So if you want to do, for example, capitalize this part, or and then just emphasize, for example, or put it in kind of like brackets or whatever you want to do, it might be easier for you to do any edits. So this is just an overview of course, MAXQDA, but I am happy to take any questions you may have within the time, 15 minutes we have left. Yes, play and pause. Play and pause, we use F4. So let me go back to transcription mode. If you click on it, yeah. So if you go to transcription mode, so you can click here too. Transcription mode is when you come to the multimedia file and go to the third one from the right, transcribe, or you can go to transcribe here and come and right click and then do it. MAXQDA cannot automatically transfer audio to text, unfortunately. And I think it's not unfortunate even, it's helpful because it is, I mean, we harness the tool and use it under our control rather than having MAXQDA really having this process. The benefit of using MAXQDA, especially here, is, let's say I want to have a memo here. There's something that I want to pay attention. When transcribing, you can, for example, select the area and right click, and you can insert memo for the selection. Even if you haven't started coding your data, it might be helpful for you to describe the context. So you can say insert memo for the selection, and let me put, I can say the interviewer, for example, describes the study or whatever, like whichever you want to do, you can just do it and put it here. And you can see there's a memo with that kind of yellow label attached to this segment when I do the transcription. Another question, let me just go one by one because yes, we addressed play and pause, rewind forward. It's F4, you can use it, and you can define that in your keyboard. It's not that hard, I can tell. And I can also tell you that I have used foot pedal use it for transcription purposes many times. It's super helpful and way more easier rather than you really working on F4 or other things on your keyboard. I mean, I would highly recommend if you're interested, but F4, and if you're fast in keyboard too, it shouldn't be a big problem. And yeah, there's another comment here. If you import transcripts from AI auto transcription services and have some information about the file at the beginning of the transcript, will that mess up the timestamp? No, it will not. I don't think so. I've used third-party transcription services as well, but timestamp is something that they sometimes send the transcript to you with timestamps already labeled as a text. So you may want to just match your document with the multimedia, the media file you may have. It might be easier for you to do that way. It shouldn't be a problem with the timestamps. Thank you for that question. So after another comment or question here, after we finish the transcription of a focus group, is it possible to create the automatic codes that are created when we import an already transcribed focus group? Yeah, well, this is a great question, but it goes beyond the transcription because it's more about the coding process. So there's a function within MAXQDA autocode. If you want to do that, you can easily do and create automatic codes that are created when we import a transcript of focus group. So if I have to, I mean, I don't mind showing, but let me just be mindful of this and address this question quickly for our attendees. So if you come to the analysis section, and when I mean, there are multiple ways of doing this, but you can do text search autocode. If you click on text search and autocode, you can click on this, and whatever key term you are interested in doing automatic codes and create autocodes, you can do this and search for some certain keywords and do autocoding in this process. This is one way of doing this. If you already have a list of codes and you want to import that into MAXQDA, that is also possible. And you can go to codes and then import a code system. Either you have it with an Excel file or already as a MAXQDA file, so it shouldn't be a problem for you to import that. My pleasure. Thanks so much. I hope that you found it helpful and it was easy for you to really get the gist of transcription. So the question is, if I get the lesson right, MAXQDA does not do the writing from audio to text for you, correct? But rather help you organize the transcription process for you while you are required to do writing yourself. It is right, correct. That is not doing it for you, but you will be doing this. But as I mentioned, you are empowered to do everything on your own, and you have the control over your own data. So I know this might be sometimes very overwhelming for some participants or researchers to really have to do this on their own. But if you do use third parties, it might be even a way to really get it to MAXQDA and then use this edit mode function and do any cleaning, which is best practice, and we have to do this anyway. So any other questions that I might have missed, if you help me? Oh, that was another one, and I think response was addressed. Is there a function to translate from one language to another once you have done the transcription? I don't think so. I've never done this transcription. I mean, as a bilingual person, I also have done some projects in other languages too. You may want to do this within MAXQDA on your own rather than having this kind of translation. So if you have any other questions or comments, let me go to the besides chat. If you have anything in the Q&A, I am happy to address those as well. Within the time we have left, if you have any questions, comments, or any feedback, I am happy to address those as well. And I appreciate you all being here today. I hope you found this helpful. There are multiple ways of course, doing research, but MAXQDA, I think, is a really good tool to really help you have the control over your data. And as I mentioned, as a best practice, we always are expected to go back and check our transcript and clean it and de-identify any information that is really that will harm our participants. So we have to avoid those circumstances and pay attention to detail. My pleasure. And if you have any other questions, I'm happy to do that, but I can continue even showing how to, transcribe. You got the gist, so that's why I'm not worried too much about doing this and using that keyboard and you hearing all that keyboard voice. But yeah, I am glad that it was useful and helpful for you. Thank you so much. And if you have any questions, comments, I am here. Please feel free to put your comments, questions in the chat, and I am happy to, or Q&A section, I am happy to address all of those. Thank you. My pleasure. And I would recommend really creating a convention system. I might be repeating myself as I want to make sure we will use the time we have for the best of our interests, but please, please, please consider creating a naming convention, even if you use third parties. When you get your transcription back and when you import them into MAXQDA for your projects, consider like really checking your convention system and organizing your data in a meaningful way that will ease the process of coding for your project. Thank you. Any other comments, feedback? Yep. Keys for rewind and forward. F4. You are going to use F4 for rewind and forward. If I need to get back to this, so I can just click on this, and then I will open transcription mode, and rewind interval sec can be arranged here on the top on the transcription setting on the left, and you are going to use F4. As soon as I hit F4, it starts playing. As soon as I hit F4, it just stops again. And yeah, so I already have, and you can even see one. Let me just go and you can see how an already transcribed version looks like. Let me just do this. I'm going to open up the English version. Thank you for that feedback and comment. So we can see Mateo's file. So let me double click. So when you have a transcription done, it will look like this. And you can see that the final product, this is the coded version of the document, but this is how the done transcription looks like, final product looks like. And you can do memos and do anything. Oh, another question I see in the chat is about sometimes I cannot hear my audio through my headphones when I'm transcribing. Has this been reported by other users? Well, I have not experienced that within MAXQDA. It might be because of your voice recording system, whichever tool you use. So I would definitely check that. I will definitely check that one, that function or the tool that you have. So it might be easier. Okay, so for those who are very new to MAXQDA, I truly appreciate having you here today, actually, really. That's one of the reasons why I started from scratch and showed you how to really get started from the open up and creating a new project. So if you really are interested in how to code after doing the transcription, there are a lot of sessions on coding process and doing this for certain projects such as grounded theory or any other project. So you may want to check out the sessions and from the main menu, and then you can see whichever will be best for you. I would highly recommend also YouTube channel of MAXQDA. You can find a lot of tools over there with different languages as well. So that might help a lot. Perfect. Any other? Yeah. See, there's a response to already to the question. Closing the transcription window, opening again, and after they hear that audio on their headphones. So that might be a case as well. Yep, and of course we have a lot of resources for MAXQDA. There's another session actually tomorrow at 4 p.m. So you can check that one, but you can also use the manual too. I found the MAXQDA manual super helpful, and every time even I visit myself and take a look at the tool or functions, if I ever forget to do anything or want to just see another way of doing how I have managed to do coding or other tools or other functions within MAXQDA. My pleasure. Thank you all so much. And please let me know if you have anything else. We have 2 more minutes. I am happy to help or address any questions. All right, so. Yep. All right. Thank you. If you don't have F4, it might be Mac versus Windows thing. So MacBook, it will be double click shift. It might help. Thank you for that feedback too. Perfect. Thank you all so much. I hope you enjoy MAXDAYS 2023 conference, and you have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you. Thanks, everyone. And if you have any questions, comments, I'm happy to wait until We are fully done with the session. Thanks, everyone. Bye.